Pig and the shape-shifting cloud. Peppa and George sit on the grass in the garden. High above, white clouds drift slowly across the blue sky. George points up at the sky, excited. Peppa squints as she watches a big cloud drifting by. Daddy Pig sits nearby, holding a cup of water, and looks up at the two children. Mommy Pig sits beside them, smiling gently. The cloud slowly turns into the shape of a chubby little pig. Peppa jumps up excitedly and points at the sky. A moment later, the cloud stretches out and turns into the shape of a dinosaur. George's eyes light up, and he jumps up happily. The cloud slowly breaks apart into many small pieces and drifts away. Peppa and George laugh happily. Peppa Pig and the Giant Cookie. This morning. Peppa and George are inside the house. Peppa holds a sheet of blue paper. Carefully, she folds the paper into the shape of an airplane. Beep, beep, beep. Peppa makes the sound of a plane taking off. Peppa gives the paper plane to George. George smiles widely. He holds the plane and runs around the room. Whoosh, whoosh. George makes the sound of the plane flying in the air. Peppa claps her hands to cheer on her little brother. George runs near the window. He throws the plane. The plane flies out the window, loops around once, and lands on the green grass in the garden. Peppa and George watch in surprise. Peppa and George run outside into the garden together. They look everywhere for the paper plane. Hooray! Hooray! George shouts when he finds the plane on the lawn. They both pick it up and run back inside the house, laughing happily. Peppa and the Little Picnic. Peppa holds a small basket and looks around the grass. Peppa spreads the picnic blanket on the ground. George runs over, carrying a toy food box. Peppa smiles happily. Peppa sits down and puts the food on the blanket. Peppa pretends to eat and nods happily. George copies her and pretends to eat too. They both laugh together. Peppa lies on her back and looks up at the sky. George lies down next to Peppa. They watch the clouds slowly drifting by. Peppa and George smile and relax. One morning, George wakes up and looks around his room. Toys are scattered all over the floor. Books lie in a messy pile on the desk. And the blanket and pillows are all over the bed. George puts, he hands on, he hips, sighs, but decides he will turn a messy room into a tidy, cozy place. George starts picking up each toy, sorting them by shape and color, then placing them into different boxes. One for cars, one for stuffed animals, and one for building blocks. Each time George closes a lid, George stacks the boxes neatly against the wall. George folds his blanket carefully, smoothing out each corner. While folding, a big teddy bear hidden inside the blanket falls to the floor. George giggles, hugs the bear for a moment, then places it neatly at the head of the bed, right next to her favorite pillow. After dusting the desk and arranging the books in order, George steps back to look at the whole room. Everything is clean and tidy. The floor is clear and shiny. George lies down on the bed, opens a picture book, and enjoys the cozy feeling of George's freshly cleaned room. Peppa and George are playing with a balloon in the park. A strong gust of wind blows the balloon up into the sky. Peppa looks up at the balloon, startled. George points at the sky, following the balloon with his eyes. Peppa and Daddy Pig start running after the balloon, trying to keep up as it flies higher. Peppa and Daddy Pig run across the grassy field, their legs moving quickly. George runs behind, watching the balloon and smiling. Peppa and Daddy Pig spot the balloon caught in a tree branch. Peppa points at the tree, excited to see the balloon. Daddy Pig uses a long stick to try and reach the balloon from the tree. Peppa hops around happily. Peppa and Daddy Pig are happy to have rescued the balloon. Peppa holds the balloon in her hands, smiling. George jumps up joyfully. The pig family sits down together and continues to play in the park. The pig family arrives at a farm to try being farmers for the day. We're going to be farmers and take care of the plants, Peppa says. Everyone gets ready to start working on the farm. Peppa and George start watering the plants. I'm going to water the plants so they can grow big and strong, Peppa says. George helps his sister by watering around the garden. Peppa and George begin to pick ripe tomatoes from the garden. Look, our tomatoes are ready, Peppa says. The pig family continues to pick vegetables and put them in their baskets. After a hard day's work on the farm, the pig family sits down to enjoy the vegetables they just picked. We can eat what we've grown with our own hands, Daddy Pig says. Everyone enjoys a meal and feels proud of their hard work. After a hard day's work, the pig family sits down to rest. Being a farmer is fun, but I like playing more, Peppa says. Daddy Pig laughs and says, helping on the farm is good, but playing is fun too. The whole family laughs and feels proud of their work. Peppa Pig in the flower basket. The garden in front of Peppa's house with gentle sunshine. A small basket is placed on the grass. Peppa bends down to look at the basket and smiles. George stands beside her, curiously looking into the basket. Peppa gently picks a flower nearby. Peppa places the flower into the basket. George points to another flower. Peppa and George pick a few more small flowers. The flower basket slowly fills up. Peppa sits down and admires the flower basket. George giggles. Mommy Pig stands nearby, and all three are happy together. Peppa Pig in the flower basket. The garden in front of Peppa's house with gentle sunshine. A small basket is placed on the grass. Peppa bends down to look at the basket and smiles. George stands beside her, curiously looking into the basket. Peppa gently picks a flower nearby. Peppa places the flower into the basket. George points to another flower. Peppa and George pick a few more small flowers. The flower basket slowly fills up. Peppa sits down and admires the flower basket. George giggles. Mommy Pig stands nearby, and all three are happy together. Oh! Wow!
Wow!
Oh! Peppa Pig and Tidy Up Day. Peppa and George's room. Toys are scattered all over the floor. Teddy bears, balls, and building blocks. Peppa looks around the room, a little surprised. George sits among the toys, happily playing. Mummy Pig walks in, smiling. Mummy Pig hands a toy box to Peppa. Peppa picks up a teddy bear and puts it into the box. George picks up a ball, but it rolls away. Daddy Pig comes in from outside. Daddy Pig picks up the ball and hands it back to George. George smiles happily.